Let's start today with a very simple Python coding problem. Write a function that takes two lists and return a new list which contains only the common elements between the two lists. You can assume there will be no duplicate elements within each list and the order of the output elements doesn't matter. The important parts which needs to be considered is first of all that only the common elements basically need to be found out, and also there will be no duplicate elements within each list, and order doesn't matter. So obviously for list usually order doesn't matter. So let's say take an example. There's one list called list one, which is like 1 2 3 4 5, and there's another list two which has values 4 5 6 7 8 9. The desired output should be a list which contains 4 and 5 because 4 and 5 occur in both of these lists. So let's see how we can solve this. I am opening Colab. So Colab is a way to interactively do Python coding. It's very similar to a Jupyter notebook. Okay, let's start. So let's first define two lists, list one and list two. Let's put some values over here. We can take the values that we shown in the example itself. And for list two, let's take 4 5 6. Okay. So we have defined two lists. Now we have to basically write a function which can take out only the common elements between two lists. So we know that we can define a function using def comment. Let's give a name called list intersection. Okay. Now it should take two inputs. One is list one or just a ls1 and ls2. And then what we want to return, want to return a list. So let's try to change the comments. I will actually break it down for you guys, but let's try to have it in the single line itself. Okay. So we have defined our function, and let's try to break down what I've written in single line. So what we can do is loop over one list, take each one value from that list and see whether that actually exists in the second list or not. So I can write this down as for value in ls1, and list is a iterator. So if you just write ls1 value in ls1, your for loop will actually iterate over all of the list values. Okay, so ls1 is actually there's no variable, so we have a list one. So let's actually have list one, which we have already defined over here, list one. So for value in list one, now we need to check whether this particular value exists in list two or not. If it exists, that's what we want, right? So for now, just write a print command and put the value in. And if I actually execute it, you'll see 4 and 5 comes up. This is what we are doing over here as well. I just wrote the whole this thing in a single line. Value for value in ls1, if value in ls2. So this is also called comment training. Okay. Now, is this working? How can we check? We just call the function list intersection, and then we need to provide the two inputs, list one, list two, and see. Yeah. So we are getting correct answer. So we have already solved this, right? Yeah. But at the same time, during coding, you have to also consider whether this is the optimum solution or not. As you can see, right now, there is how many operations there need to be, and there are a lot. Like if you consider like list one has n elements, because now list can have any number of elements, right? So now if list one has n elements, list two has n elements. Let's consider for simplicity that both of these lists have n elements, then first of all, whenever you are writing a for loop, it would be uh, n operations because it is actually happening for each value of in the list one. And then again, it is taking whether that particular value exists in list two. So there is a comparison for each value of ls1 for each value of ls2. So we call this order of n square. So order of n square means like the time complexity, like the time. If you consider that okay, uh, one operation would take 1 unit of time, in that respect, you need to do n square number of operations, and it would take n square number of time, amount of time, and n would be the number of elements in the list. So if it is large, then it would actually create some problem. Is there an optimum way to solve this? Yes, there is. So Python also has something called set. What set does, set actually tries to find the unique elements in a iterable. So if I put set of list one, as right now since there is no duplicate things in list, it would simply be all these elements. But set, like a mathematical set, has some operations as well, like odd operations, and operations. And what we are actually trying to find out is the and operation. So if we actually try to have like set of list one, and set of list two, what you would see, this AND operations kind of enforces that it just takes the AND operation of the unique elements of list one and unique elements of list two, which is basically boils down to 4 and 5. And obviously, we were told to basically make a list, so we can just use the list function, which can convert these elements into a list, and voila. So we are done. So now this is much more optimum because state operations, again, odd operation or AND operation is just order of n, and so basically there would be like order of the whole operation would be order of n, the time complexity. So it's much more compact or optimum if you have many elements in your list. So let's write the function as well. So again, list intersection 2, because we just do not want to give the same name. Again, ls1, ls2, and now what we want to return, we just want to return this. But obviously, the names will be changed. So list, underneath it has to be set of ls1 and set of ls2. Okay, we have defined. Let's see whether it's working as it should. List intersection 2, this is the command, and now let's give the list as inputs, and it's working. So this would be our function, small and simple and optimum. Thanks for listening.